हरिः ओम् नमः सर्वेभ्यः। अष्टाध्यायी परिचयः इत्यस्य अद्य 37 पाठः। अस्मिन् वर्गे हल् सन्धिप्रकरणे द्वित्वं, जष्ट्वं, शर्त्वं तथा च परसवर्णाः इत्येते विषयाः कथं प्रवर्तन्ते तत् सूत्रैः सह पठामः। शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये येनाक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्। अस्माकं वर्गस्य द्वे प्रयोजने अष्टाध्याय्याः आहत्य षट्शतस्य सूत्राणां व्याख्यासहितम् उदाहरणसहितं च अध्ययनम्. So 600 is our goal. In today's class, we will reach the 100th mark. So 500 more to go. And अष्टाध्याय्याः प्रथमाध्यायस्य प्रथमपादस्य द्वितीयपादस्य कण्ठस्थीकरणम्. अद्य अधीयमानानि सूत्राणि एतानि सर्वाणि सन्ति. The sutras are actually very simple today. I'm hoping that we can finish the class early. And if we are finishing too early, I might take up some Shastra Vishaya that I omitted in one of the previous classes. Let's see. So we have a bunch of sutras for dwitvam, achoh, rahabhyam, dve, anachi, sharoch'i. Then we have one sutram for jashtvam. We have already studied Jhalam jashonte, which is the padanta jashtvam. Now this is apadanta jashtvam. Yatra padasya ante varnaha na vidyate tatrapi kathanchit jashtvam sambhavati. Then we have two sutras for chartwam and we have one sutram for parasavarnaha. All these are actually very simple operations and don't involve too much of complexity. Look at the positioning of the sutras. We are towards the end of 8.4. So looking at the sutra list that we have covered till the previous classes, we finished the agama, adesha and so on. So we were in 8.2, then we went to 8.3 and so on. And now in the rutva, shutva, shtutvani, the last class, we were in the last region of 8.4. So 8.4, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. Now we are even moving beyond that. So we are going to 8 for 46. So 68 is the last sutram. So we are going to learn 46, 47, 49, 53, 55 and so on. In tomorrow's class, we will talk about 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. So from in today's and tomorrow's class, it's fully almost a sequence of sutras appearing towards the end of Ashtadhyayi. Prarabhamahe. The very first karyam that we are going to learn is dwitvam, doubling. पूर्वमया उक्तमस्ति द्वित्वम् अष्टाध्याय्यां त्रिविधं वर्तते. धातु द्वित्वं यथा दा इति धातोः ददाति इति भवति तत्र दा इत्यस्य द्वित्वं कृतं दृश्यते. So that is the dhatu dvitvam. The sutras for that are in 6.1. Then you have padadvitvam. The entire word gets repeated. Grame grame krishnavanam, or say mandam mandam nudati pavanaha. So in those particular poems where you have a repeated word, mandam mandam or grame grame and so on, yatra chabala, that song is there. It's not a random replication, or it is not a replication that is done just so that the poet could not remember or think of a different word. There is a grammatical rule because of which that replication is happening over there. So that is the padadvitvam, the entire word gets replicated. So that is in the beginning of 8.1, sarvasya dve iti adhikara asti. And then there is Varnadvitvam, just a single letter gets doubled. That is in 8.4 towards the end of Ashtadhyayi. So out of that, obviously Dhatu Dvitvam is not part of Hal Sandhi, Pada Dvitvam is not part of Hal Sandhi. It is the Varna Dvitvam that is the part of Hal Sandhi. So Varna Dvitvam ityasya eva adya sutranam adhyanam kurmah. तत्र अष्टाध्याय्याम् उक्तम् इत्युक्ते अत्र अष्टाध्यायस्य चतुर्थे पादे अन्ते उक्तं वर्णद्वित्वं मुख्यरूपेण द्विविधमस्ति. मुख्यरूपेण इति किमर्थम् उच्यते? तत्र लघूनि वार्तिकानि अपि कानिचन सन्ति यत्र विशिष्टप्रकारकं द्वित्वम् उच्यते, परन्तु तेषां वार्तिकानाम् अध्ययनम् इदानीम् अस्माभिः अस्मिन् वर्गे न करिष्यते. केवलं मुख्यरूपेण सूत्रैः उच्यमानं द्वित्वं द्विविधम्. प्रथमं द्वित्वं, most of you probably know this, but just let's recollect it once again. स्वरात् अनन्तरं रेफः हकारः वा विद्यते चेत् तस्माद् अनन्तरं विद्यमानस्य व्यञ्जनस्य विकल्पेन द्वित्वं भवति. So if you have a combination where you have an ach letter followed by a r or a h, either of them, followed by any other vyanjana, hal, then this particular hal which comes immediately after r or h is optionally replicated. So arkaha रेफात् अनन्तरं ककारः अस्ति तस्य विकल्पेन द्वित्वं भवति. ब्रह्मा हकारात् अनन्तरं मकारः अस्ति तस्य विकल्पेन द्वित्वं भवति. वार्तिकम, you can write it as a double takara or pronounce it as a double takara. Vari plus atra, even during the sandhis, when you are doing the yana sandhi, you are going to have var yatra. That refer, in case of vari, for example, there will be a var and then ikara se yanadesha bhavati. So in case of var yatra, the ya can be replicated by doing var yatra. Pahi plus atra, the ha can has yakara after that. So ya can be replicated pahi plus atra pahi yatra. All these transformations are optional, but if there is a repha and hakara and there is a vyanjana after that, then that vyanjana gets replicated. Ayam prathamaha niyamah. Dvitiyaha niyamah swaradanantaram repha hakara bhinnam vyanjanam vartate chet tasya vyanjanasya vikalpena dvitvam bhavati. So if there is a repha and hakara, then the vyanjana after repha hakara is replicated. But what happens if there is any random other vyanjana other than repha and hakara? Then that vyanjan itself gets replicated. Agre swaraha asti chet na bhavati. Now why it is written in a convoluted manner? Agre swaraha asti chet na bhavati vadami. Parantu tasmat purvam udaharanani pashyamaha. Krishnaha iti asti. So there is a swara called ru in the kru. Then after the swara there is a repha hakara bhinna vyanjana which is sh. तस्माद् अनन्तरम् अग्रे स्वरः न वर्तते. सो अग्रे स्वरः अस्ति चेत् न भवति. अग्रे स्वरः अस्ति वा अग्रे स्वरः नास्ति. देयर इज अ नकार ओवर देयर. देयर इज नो स्वरा नेक्स्ट टू इट. देयरफॉर षकारस्य विकल्पेन द्वित्वं भवति. कृष्ण इति वक्तुं शक्यते. सेम एग्जांपल्स ऑफ यण संधि. इति प्लस अपि, इत्यपि. देयर इज अ स्वर कॉल्ड ई. देयर इज अ व्यंजन कॉल्ड तकार. अग्रे स्वरः अस्ति वा अग्रे स्वरः नास्ति. यकारः अस्ति, अतः तकारस्य द्वित्वं भवति. इत्यपि. कृष्णस्य, now a word can have multiple such instances. So कृष्णस्य इत्यत्र षकार संयोगः अस्ति. तत्र षकार संयोगस्य षकारस्य द्वित्वं संभवति. सकार यकार संयोगः अस्ति. तत्र सकार यकार संयोगस्य सकारस्य अपि द्वित्वं संभवति. So you can have कृष्णस्य with a double shakar. Typing mistake over here. Double shakar. Let me fix this right away. So krishnasya ityatra double shakarah. So you can have replication of shna and shakara without having the replication of sakara, or you can have the replication of sakara, or you can have the replication of sakara and shakara both. So you can, because there are two sanyogas, you can have the lopa on you can have the dvitva on either of them. You can have a dvitva on shakara, or you can have the dvitva on sakara, or you can have dvitva on both, thereby giving three possible forms. And obviously everything is optional, so a total of 4 forms are there. Now why do we write this very specific thing, agre swaraha asti ched na bhavati? We could have easily written agre vyanjanam asti ched bhavati. So स्वराद अनंतरम रेफहकार भिन्नं व्यंजते. तस्माद् अग्रे व्यंजनम् अस्ति चेत् पूर्ववर्णस्य द्वित्वं भवति इति अस्माभिः वक्तव्यम् आसीत्. परन्तु इदानीम् अस्माभिः किम् उक्तं? स्वराद अनंतरम रेफहकार भिन्नं व्यंजनं विद्यते चेत् व्यंजनस्य विकल्पेन द्वित्वं भवति. परन्तु अग्रे स्वरः अस्ति चेत् न भवति. Why is it told in a negative manner? The reason is that there are actually 3 things that can exist after that vyanjana. You can have a swara, or you can have a vyanjana, or you can have avasana. If there is a vyanjana at the end, like for example ramat panchami ekvachan, then there is neither swara nor vyanjana in front of it. There is avasana after the takara. In such a case, what will happen? So now look at the rule. Swarat anantaram repha hakara bhinnam vyanjanam vartate chet व्यंजनस्य विकल्पेन द्वित्वं भवति. अग्रे स्वरः अस्ति चेत् न भवति. Is there a swara agre? There is no swara agre. Therefore, you can actually replicate the takara of ramat by say and do ramat and that is also a perfectly valid form. Instead of saying agre swaraha asti chet na bhavati, if we would have said agre vyanjanam asti chet bhavati, in that case the takara of ramat could not have been doubled. रामात इत्यस्य तकारस्य अपि द्वित्वं साधु अस्ति, तादृशं द्वित्वं संभवेत् इति कारणेन अनेन प्रकारेण अत्र अर्थविधानं क्रियते. So you can still have ramat with a single takara or double takara. I will talk about it in details when I talk about the sutram as well. Now, one thing to understand over here is एताभ्याम प्रत्येकम नियमः एकस्य वर्णस्य संदर्भेण एकवारम एव प्रयोक्तव्यः. So for example, if you have कृष्णः, then you see ऋकारात् इत्युक्ते स्वरात् अनन्तरं षकारः अस्ति, तस्माद् अग्रे अच्वर्णः नास्ति. So let us replicate that shakara and you will get कृष्ण with a double shakara. Now you look at the same word again. ऋकारात् अनन्तरं व्यञ्जनमस्ति षकारः, तस्माद् अनन्तरम् अच्वर्णः नास्ति. So who stops you from replicating that shakara again? So replicate it, make 3 shakaras, then 4, 5, 6, the process will go till infinity. To avoid that, there is a rule, लक्ष्ये लक्षणं सकृदेव प्रवर्तते. कः अर्थः? एकस्य वर्णस्य संदर्भेण एकः नियमः एकवारम् एव प्रयोक्तव्यः. So you can use the same niyama for a given word multiple times. So for example, we have seen examples where the same word got 2 chartvas, or here for example we are doing 2 dwitvas. So same niyama is replicated, is being applied 2 times, but it is on 2 different places. The first instance of that niyama is applied on shakara, the other instance is applied on sakara. The rule says एकस्य वर्णस्य संदर्भेण एकवारम् एव नियमः प्रयोक्तव्यः. लक्ष्ये लक्षणं सकृदेव प्रवर्तते. लक्ष्ये means on the word, lakshanam means a sutra, on the entity, the varna. The lakshanam means a sutra, sakrutam ekavaram pravartate. So varnasya sandarbhena ekavaram eva niyamah prayoktavya. So you can just do a single dvitvam with a shakara, doubled shakara, not multiple dvitvas on that shakara again and again. Agre gacchamaha. So the 2 niyamas that I mentioned right now, there are 2 sutras. The sutras are actually very simple. Achoh rahabhyam dve and anachi cha. So achoh rahabhyam dve. Achah parabhyam रेफहकाराभ्याम परस्य यरः द्वे वास्तः संहितायाम. The sutram is achah rahabhyam dve. Achah is panchami, rahabhyam once again panchami, dve iti विधेयमस्ति प्रथमायाम. यरः यरोनुनासिकेनुनासिको वा इत्यस्मात् यरः इति अनुवर्तते, वा इत्यपि तस्मात् सूत्रात् अनुवर्तते, संहितायाम् इति अधिकारः. सो अचः रहाभ्यां यरः वा द्वे संहितायाम्. अचः रहाभ्याम is the purva nimitta. So 2 purva nimittas are chained together. Achaha rahabhyam. So there must be an ach letter first, then there must be refa and hakara. So achaha parat अचः वर्णात् परौ यः रेफः परः यः रेफः हकारः तस्मात् परस्य. So the ordering is acho rahabhyam dve. There must be leftmost entity must be ach, after that must be refa or hakara, and after that there will be the sthani, the yana letter. So sthani is yana, yara letter, that's the sthani. Dve is the vidheya. So dve iti vidheyam, yaraha iti sthani, yar varnasya dvitvam bhavati. यर इत्यस्मिन् प्रत्याहारे हकारं विहाय अन्यानि सर्वाणि व्यञ्जनानि समाविश्यन्ते. So starting from ह य व र ट, you pick that r and then sh sh, so you pick that y and sh sh sar. So you pick that r, h is ignored from both the ends. So यर इति प्रत्याहारे हकारं विहाय सर्वाणि व्यञ्जनानि सन्ति. यर इति प्रत्याहारेण निर्दिष्टस्य वर्णस्य द्वित्वं भवति. Yar is actually not in the sutram, it is taken as anuvritti. So yar ityasya anuvritti rupena atra grahanam bhavati, and that's why a little bit of leniency is given over there. So yar pratyahare vastutah rephaha api vartate. So ha ya va ra ta. So yar pratyahare rephaha vastutah vartate. परंतु रेफस्य अत्र द्वित्वं न भवति. किमर्थं न भवति? रेफस्य अत्र निमित्तरूपेण ग्रहणं कृतमस्ति. So who is your nimitta? The nimitta is h and r. Out of that, the h is altogether excluded from being a sthani. But r was included in the sthani Because Panini Maharshi decided to reuse the yaraha as the pratyahara. Panini Maharshi could have changed and created a different pratyahara, but instead he decided to reuse the yara pratyahara on the account of the fact that ra can be included without any purpose. So this is all clear from the Vyakhyana. यद्यपि यर इत्यस्मिन् वर्णे रेफः अपि समाविष्टः अस्ति, तथापि रेफस्य अत्र निमित्तत्वेन ग्रहणं भवति. रेफा इज द पर्पस ऑफ डूइंग द द्वित्वम, अतः तस्य अत्र स्थानिरूपेण ग्रहणं न क्रियते इति व्याख्यानात् ज्ञायते. So even though the yara pratyahara undergoes the dvitva is the व्याख्यान, रेफं विहाय हकारं च विहाय अन्येषां वर्णानां द्वित्वं भवति इति अत्र आशयः. बालमनोरमाकारः एक्सप्लेन्स दिस. अत्र रेफ हकारयोः द्वित्वं न भवति इति बालमनोरमाकारेण स्पष्टीक्रियते. सो व्हाट इज द सूत्रार्थ? अच्वर्णात् परौ यौ रेफ हकारौ ताभ्यां परस्य रेफ हकार भिन्नस्य व्यञ्जनस्य विकल्पेन द्वित्वं भवति. A lot of examples are given over here. Archati, the chakara gets doubled. Gauryau, Gauri shabda se prathama dvivachanam. Gauryau, yakara gets doubled. This is coming after ref. Brahmanaha, something after hakara. So ma is doubled. Irshya, रेफात् अनन्तरं विद्यमानस्य शकारस्य द्वित्वं भवति. कर्म, रेफात् अनन्तरं विद्यमानस्य मकारस्य द्वित्वं भवति. यपि, हि प्लस अपि, यपि हकारात् अनन्तरं विद्यमानस्य यकारस्य द्वित्वं भवति. तरु प्लस अर्कः तर्वर्कः यणादेशः, रेफात् अनन्तरं विद्यमानस्य वकारस्य द्वित्वं भवति, नो चेत् अर्क इत्यत्र रेफात् अनन्तरं विद्यमानस्य ककारस्य द्वित्वं भवति, नो चेत् उभयथा भवितुम् अर्हति. अनेन प्रकारेण अत्र अचोरहाभ्याम द्वे इति सूत्रस्य कः आशयः? अच् प्लस हकार और रेफ प्लस यर लेटर विच प्रैक्टिकली मीन्स रेफम हकारम विहाय अन्यत् व्यंजनम. एतादृशी स्थितिः वर्तते चेत् तस्य अंतिम व्यंजनस्य रेफ हकारम विहाय यद् व्यंजनम अत्र अग्रे निमित्त स्थानिरूपेण स्थापितमस्ति तस्य विकल्पेन द्वित्वं भवति. That is the essence of achorahabhyam dve. That was the first of the two rules. The second rule was that if you have a swara, just reminding the rule, if you have an ach letter and then if you have a vyanjana hal letter, technically it is again the same yara letter. So if you have a swara and then if you have a yara letter, then that yara letter undergoes a replication, and only when there is an ach letter in front the replication is prohibited. So three cases: ach agre asti ched dvitvam na bhavati, hal agre asti ched dvitvam bhavati, avasanam asti agre asti chedapi dvitvam bhavati. So that is the second rule. Anachi. Immediately next sutram in the order, achorahabhyam dve and anachi. Kaha arthaha? Achaha parasya yaraha द्वे वास्तः. वेरी सिंपल. अच्वर्णात् परस्य यर वर्णस्य विकल्पेन द्वित्वं भवति, न तु अचि. अच्वर्णे परे न भवति. So anachi cha, all the same things are coming as anuvritti from the previous sutram. You can take a look at it later on. Achaha yaraha, achaha iti panchami, yaraha iti shashthi. So achvarnat parasya yar varnasya द्वे वा संहितायां विकल्पेन द्वित्वं भवति, अनचि अच् परेण भवति. So as I mentioned, achaha iti panchami पूर्वनिमित्त रूपेण तस्य ग्रहणं, यरः इति षष्ठी स्थानिरूपेण ग्रहणं, द्वे इति प्रथमा विधेय रूपेण ग्रहणं. अत्रापि यर इति वर्णेन रेफस्य निर्देशः न भवति. So that yara which is to be taken in the sutras of dvitva prakaranam does not involve rep, even though the pratyahara contains it. And that was convenient for Panini Maharshi because ya, va are to be included. In ha, ya, va, ra, ta. Ra is not included. And then ya, ha, ya, va, ra, lan, la, and so on, everything is to be included. So it was a little hard to create a pratyahara that could compass everything together. So he just uses the yara pratyahara and explicitly states in the commentary. So we don't have Panini's commentary available today, but we have the commentaries of different acharyas. In all these commentaries, we understand yara ityatra rephasya nirdeshah na bhavati. So Balamanoramakara clarifies anachicha. So earlier statement was for the achorahabhyam dve. अत्र सेम थिंग अनचि च इति रेफ हकारयोः द्वित्वं न भवति. So ach varnat parasya, so you have an ach letter, after that you have a yara letter which is technically ref hakar bhinnam vyanjanam. So ref hakar bhinnam vyanjanam, tasmadanantaram ach varnaha nasti chet tasya ref hakar bhinnasya vyanjanasya dvitvam bhavati. So Anachi is the nishedha that is done in the sutram. Na achi ityukte achvarne pare dvitvam na bhavati. The sutra is not halicha. It is not saying halvarne pare dvitvam bhavati. It is saying ach bhinne varne pare ityukte achvarne pare dvitvam na bhavati. Hal bhavet avasanam bhavet dvitvam avashyam bhavati. So look at the brilliance in which the sutra is constructed. A condition is given in a negated format. So achvarnat parasya हकार रेफ भिन्न व्यंजनस्य विकल्पेन द्वित्वं भवति. अच्वर्णः अग्रे अस्ति चेत् तु न भवति. So Krishna has a shakara replicated. Ityapi has a takara replicated. Not the yakara. Takara is replicated. See, understand, when there is a r or h, then tasmad anantaram vidyamanasya varnasya dvitvam bhavati. That is the previous rule. Achoh rahabhyam dve. This rule says रेफ हकार भिन्नम व्यंजनम यदि अस्ति तर्हि तस्य व्यंजनस्य द्वित्वं भवति. So in इत्यपि it is the takara, the first of the two is going to get replicated. कृष्णस्य इत्यत्र शकार इत्यस्य द्वित्वं संभवति, सकार इत्यस्य अपि द्वित्वं संभवति, उभयथा अपि द्वित्वं संभवति. अनेन प्रकारेण अत्र उदाहरणानि सन्ति. And as I have been mentioning again and again, हलि इति न उक्तम्, अनचि इति उक्तमस्ति. अतः अच्वर्णस्य अभावे हल वर्णः नास्ति चेदपि इत्युक्ते अवसाने अपि अवश्यं द्वित्वं संभवति. रामात् यू कैन रेप्लिकेट तकार ऑप्शनली. रामात् इति वक्तुं शक्यते. अवदत्, so you can take any tingant or subant where there is a hal letter at the end, you can always replicate it optionally. Avadat becomes avadat इति रूपेण अत्र अनचिच इति सूत्रेण द्वित्वं भवति. So we have seen two sutras of Dvitva. Let's quickly recollect once again. I mean, there is nothing to recollect over here, but let's quickly once again recollect. Swarat anantaram refa hakaraha vidyate chet tasmat anantaram vidyamanasya vyanjanasya vikalpena dvitvam. And swarat anantaram refa hakara bhinnam vyanjanam vidyate chet tasyeva vyanjanasya vikalpena dvitvam. Parantu agre swaraha asti chet tadrusham dvitvam na bhavati. Now there is only one nishedha for this dvitvam. It is actually applicable only, I think, to the achoh rahabhyam dve sutra. And this nishedha says achi pare sharaha dvitvam na bhavati. So the sutra is Sharoch'i. It is immediately next. So one, I think, Nadinya Kroshe Putra say is being put in the middle. I'm not teaching that. So the sequence is achoh rahabhyam dve, anachicha, Nadinya Kroshe Putrasya, and Sharoch'i. I'm omitting Nadinya Kroshe Putrasya. So we did achoh rahabhyam dve, anachicha. The next is Sharoch'i, Sharvarnasya, Sharaha achi. Sharvarnasya achvarne pare dvitvam na bhavati. So Sharaha achi, simple sutra, one is Shashti, one is Saptami. So looking at the sutra, you should be able to get the meanings for many sutras now. Panchami, Shashti and Saptami are extremely fundamental, and 80 to 90% of the sutras you should be able to decipher with that. So Sharaha achi dve nastaha. So achoh rahabhyam dve ityasmat dve iti anvartate, nadinyam kroshe putraste ityasmat na iti anvartate, samhitayam iti adhikaraha, sharaha achi dve nastaha. Kaharthaha sharvarnasya. Shar is the very last Shiva sutram, shashasar, before hal. So sharvarnasya ityukte shakara shakara sakarasya achvarne pare. If there is a shakara shakara sakara and then there is an immediate achvarna after that, dvitvam na bhavati. Kaharthaha. See, observe this. By achoh rahabhyam dve sutram, what was told? That there is a refa or hakara. After that, there is any yar letter other than refa. So there is any yar letter, then this yar letter will optionally undergo a replication. So archati ityatra refadantaram chakarah asti tasya dvitvam bhavati. Now the sutra says achi pare sharaha dvitvam na bhavati. So if there is an ach letter after this yar letter, then the sh and s, which might have become doubled because of achoh rahabhyam dve, will not undergo doubling. So for the normal achoh rahabhyam dve, this next ach letter is out of scope, is not necessarily to be seen. But when there is a specific shara letter whose dvitva is being considered, that might get blocked by an ach letter that is sitting next to it. So sharavarnasya ityute shakara sakara shakara shakara sakarasya achvarणे pare dvitvam na bhavati. So achorabhyam dve ityasya ayam nishedhah. Some simple examples will make it clear. Chaturshu, the saptami bahuvachan of the chatur word. Atra kim asti? Chaturshu. Achvarnat paraha refah. तस्मादनंतरम शरवर्णः, तस्मादनंतरम अच्वर्णः. So you have ref, then you have sh, which is technically a yara letter. So achorahabhyam dve might force a replication of sh, but after that there is a swara chaturshu. So agre vidyamanam achvarnam drushva sharvarnasya ityukte shakarasya dvitvam nishidhyate. Please understand, if there was any other letter like say arku, arka was the example that we have seen, a, r, k, a. So for k also it is exactly the same situation. There is a ref, after that there is the k, and after that there is ach letter. But the replication of k was not hindered, it was not blocked. Achorahabhyam dvityanena kakarasya dvitvam avashyam bhavati. So you say ark k with the replicated k. But if that letter whose dvitvam is being done is sh, or s, then you cannot do the dvitvam if there is a swara immediately after it. So chaturshu ityatra achvarnat parharepha tasmadanantaram sharvarnaha tasmadanantaram achvarnaha asti. So that is an important condition. Asya shakarasya achorahabhyam dvityanena praptam dvitvam anena sutrena nishuddhyate. You cannot write chaturshu with a double shakara. You have to write it with a single shakara. In the same way, darshanam refadanantaram shakara asti. Sparshaha, harshaha, varshati. In all these examples, rephat anantaram shakara asti, hakarad anantaram api sharvarna asti te tasya dvitvam na bhavati. But you don't get easy examples of ha plus sh, or ha plus sh, or ha plus these kind of examples are not very common. They are not given in commentaries. So we don't give examples of ha. The examples of refa are quite common. So darshanam, sparshaha, harshaha, varshati ityadishu idam dvitvam nishidhyate. And understand that the condition for the nishedha of dvitva the condition for nishedha of dvitva is that you must have an ach letter immediately after that shara letter. If there is no ach letter, if it is a combined sanyog of three entities, so for example, if you have r or h to start with, then you have a shara letter, say sh, and then you don't have an ach letter, you have another hal letter, then this dvitva will always happen, or then this dvitva will definitely happen. Dvitva is optional, but it will still definitely happen as an option. Why? Because kevalam achi pare sharaha dvitvam nishiddham asti, hal varne pare nishiddham nasti, and therefore agre achvarnaha nasti chetu sharvarnasya dvitvam avashyam sambhavati yatha darshyate. Karmani prayoga darshyate. So r plus sh plus y, that shakara will get replicated. Varshyate, r plus sh plus y, that shakara will definitely get replicated. Anena prakarena atra dvitvasya adhyanam samaptam. We did two sutras, ashorahabhyam dve anachi cha, and one negation, nishedha sutram, Sharoch'i. Any questions on dvitva? श्रीनिवास महोदय, नमस्ते.
नमस्ते महोदय. प्रश्नः अस्ति, तत्र साक्षात् अच्वर्णात् परः यदि रेफः वा हकारः अस्ति चेत् भवितुमर्हति, तर्हि बर्हति इति यदि पदम् अस्ति, तत्र हकारस्य, यतोहि हकारः तु यर् प्रत्याहारे अपि न गृहीतः, तर्हि तत्र भवति वा? न
बर्हति इत्यत्र न भवितो बर्हति अत्र किल
आम्
एतादृशमेव लिख्यते किल ऐ मीन् वर्णभेदः एतादृशः
आम्
बर्हति
सत्यं
तत्र रेफात् परस्य हकारस्य न भवितुमर्हति किमर्थमिति चेत् अचो रहाभ्यां द्वे इत्यत्र यर् वर्णस्य एव द्वित्वम्
आम् तर्हि
अतः यर् वर्णे
हकारः न गृहीतः आम् तथैव अह्रादत इति यदि शब्दः अस्ति चेत्
ह प्लस र इति अस्ति चेत् तत्रापि यद्यपि रेफः यर् वर्णे स्वीक्रियते तथापि रेफस्य द्वित्वं कदापि अनेन सूत्रेण न भवति इति नियमः सो वी हैव सी आई थिंक
स्पष्टं महोदय
स्पष्टं
तदेव
किल
धन्यवादः
सुधावल्ली वन सेकेंड हाँ सुधावल्ली सुधावल्ली जी okay, I'll come to you later on. रत्नाकर महोदय
Acharya, in fact, it is not a doubt. I request you to slow down. You are really going so fast today. I don't know. I don't.
Okay. No. So I'm very upfront over here. Revision is compulsory.
I
Going onwards,
understand.
just looking at the sutras, you should be able to predict Panchami, Shashti, understand the basic meaning. I am purposely going on fast because the sutras are very easy. Sadly, or whatever way you want to take the difficulty.
Nice sutras may be easy, but the concept is a little really. One has to look at it.
Okay.
That's one.
I'll slow down. No. Mugdha.
So for all the Tvanta Rupani, if we take this Anachita Sutra, so ideally everywhere that Takara should get Dvitva, right? But only in Dattva we see double Takara every time.
Correct.
So why is that so?
Correct. Why is that? That's a good question. So see, in case of Gatva and so on, Takara can be doubled, but it is optional. So you can say Gatva with a single Takara or you can say Gatva with a double Takara, that is acceptable. The Prakriya for Dattva is slightly different because the actual Prakriya involves a double Takara. In the Prakriya of Da plus Tva, in the first step, there is a sutram that converts Da to Datta. And then you have Tva. So in the Prakriya itself, there is a double Takara. So you are forced to write double Takara towards the end. Therefore, the final form is Dattva with a double Takara. But in Gatva and so on, it is Ga plus Tva. So you can do optional Dvitva. Sudhavalli.
Namaskaram, Mahoday.
Namaste.
My doubt is Sharoch'i, instead of yer, why can't he use yai vyanjana plus antastha only? No, there shasasa will not come. Why can't he use yai pratyaya in that? Vargya vyanjana plus antastha.
Because the dvitva of shara is avoided only when ach is in front. Otherwise, shara will undergo dvitva, right? Darshyate. The ra plus sh plus ya plus te. Sh will undergo dvitva. So he needs to have sh in the yara pratyahara in the original dvitva sutra. Only when there is ach letter, the dvitva is blocked, right?
My doubt is in this he can use that Sharoch'i. He can use yai and ach letter pare. It will not happen. The dittam na bhavati. So he can very well shasasara can be removed using that yai varna.
What yai varna? No, atra ach varne pare shar varnasya dvitvam na bhavati. This is the rule. Where is the yai coming in the picture? ach varne pare shar varnasya dvitvam bhavati. Yai varnasya avashyam bhavati.
Okay, yai varnasya avashyam bhavati. He can very well use vargya vyanjanani antastaha if vyanjanaha and avasanas they are there after that yai varn pratyahara, then this dvitvam will dvitvam bhavati. He can very well say that he can use that pratyahara yai instead of yar. That is my doubt.
The same thing, because he wants to explicitly negate only for ach.
Okay.
Same thing that we discussed earlier, like anachi cheteta no achi iti kimartham uchyate, hali iti kimartham no uchyate. He only wants to negate when there is an ach. He doesn't want to negate in other cases like avasana and so on. Right? Here for sure, so there won't be avasana. So that actual practicality, that condition will not come up. But then you see what is easier, saying yaya or and other letters, or saying shara. Sharaha achi dwitvam na bhavati. Na can also come as an anuvritti. So this is a little bit of laghava. And no doubt, right? There is a question written over here. Ha plus त्र्यंबक इत्यादिषु त्रिव्यंजनात्मके संयोगे कुत्र द्वित्वं भवति? So let's take an example. Ha plus ta plus ra plus ya plus a. So this is ha, half ha plus त्र्यंबक. That's the question. Atra kutra dvitvam bhavati. So look at the sutras. Achoh rahabhyam dve. So achvarnat parasya haya hakarat parasya yar varnasya dvitvam bhavati. So there is no achvarna in the beginning. So first of all, there cannot be this third does not qualify at all for undergoing a dvitva. Achoh rahabhyam dve. There must be an ach in the front. You cannot just say yaha. That was actually a good example. I should have shown that. Yaha ityatra hakaradhanantaram yakarasya dvitvam na sambhavati yatohi achvarnat parah hakara nasti. This is actually a very good example, counter example that should be given. And then other places you see, for example, takarasya dvitvam sambhavati va. So anachi cha acha parasya araha dve vastaha. So again there is no ach at all. So nowhere in this case, particular case, the dvitvam is possible. Tatra udaharani doshaha vartate. Do you want to give any other example where basically just apply two rules? There is nothing complicated going on. Just apply two rules and see what kind of replication is allowed by the sutras. Agri Gachama. I should never say class is going to finish early. So many questions come. Let's move on. But before that, this question gave actually a very good point that achaha parasya. So achvarnat parasya refa hakara. So if you just have the word called yaha, atra yakarasya dvitvam na bhavati yatohi atra achvarnat paraha hakaraha na vartate. That's a good counter example. I'll fix the slide deck after the class. No more questions. Let's move on. Ruchi Bhagini.
Namaste, Mohoday. Achoh rahabhyam dve. Is this sutra used somewhere in between the prakriya also? Is it always at the end?
So it will be mostly at the end, but after achoh rahabhyam dve, there can be jashtva, which I'm going to teach right away. So this next jashtva, which is, see, achoh rahabhyam dve is 8446 and 8447. The dvitva prakaranam is 8447. The Jhalam jash jashi sutram, that's the jashtva, is 8453. You see examples of jashtva after the dvitva done after by these sutras. I'll show the examples.
Okay, thank you.
But because it is towards the end, it will be one of the last steps in the prakriya. That's it for sure. Any other questions? So Jashvam, hal sandhau jayamanam Jashvam dvividham Jhalan Jashonte ityanena nirdishtam padanta Jashvam. We have already seen this, I think, all the way in the very first class of Hal Sandhi. So class number 34, I think. In Padante Hal Sandhavadesha, right, one of the first third sutra in the starting was Jhalan Jashonte. Padante Vidyamanase Jhalvarnase Jashvarnadesha Bhavati. So Ramat becomes Ramad. This happens in 8 to 39. So just now we are talking about the duplication of Takar Ramat. Even before that, you are going to do Jashtva. Ramat becomes Ramad. Anushtubha becomes Anushtubha. Vak becomes Vag. Shash becomes Shad. Lid becomes Lid. So all these are examples of Padanta Jashtva. We have seen this. The one that we are going to study right now is Apadanta Jashtva. Very few examples. Apadanta Jashtva is a jhal letter which is not at the end of the pada. Tasya api jashtvam bhavati. So jhalam jashonte ityanena padanta jhalvarnasya jashtvam bhavati. Idanim apadanta jhalvarnasya jhashvarne pare jashtvam bhavati. So understand three pratyaharas. Jhalam, jash, jhashi. Jhalam ityukte jhal varnasya dvitvam bhavati. Sorry, jhal varnasya jashtvadesha bhavati. That is the same in both cases. So whether it is the padanta jashtvam or whether it is the apadanta jashtvam, jhalam iti samanam asti. So jhal varnasya atra jashtwasya chintanam kriyamaणं वर्तते. झल इत्युक्ते वर्ग चतुर्थः, वर्ग तृतीयः, वर्ग द्वितीयः, वर्ग प्रथमः, श श सर and हल. So ऊष्माणास्. So 4 3 2 1 and ऊष्माणास्. एतेषां सर्वेषां जष्ट्वं भवति. कदा भवति? झष् वर्णे परे. So if the padanta condition is not there, then there must be explicit letter in front, and that letter must be jhash. Jhash is jhabhay ghadadhash jabagadash. So varga chaturtha and varga tritiya. So yatra jhal varnadanantaram varga chaturtha no chet varga tritiya asti tatra etadrusham jashtvam pravartate. And the examples of this jashtva are very rare. Idam jashtvam samanya rupena tinganta prakriyasu krudanta prakriyasu cha drishyate, not usually seen in the sandhis directly. So labha plus kta ityatra prakriyayam kathanchit, by a different sutram, kta becomes dha. So you have labha plus dha. In this step, there is a jhala letter and then there is a varga chaturtha, so jhasha letter after that. So now the jashtva will happen, and labha is not a pada over here. So padante jashtvam atra nasti, apitu jhalam jash jhashi iti apadanta jhalvarnasya jashtvam asti. So labha becomes lab and dha remains as it is, labdha. Atra bhakarasya ityukte jhalvarnasya धकारे परे इत्युक्ते झष्वर्णे परे जष्ट्वे कृते बकारादेशः भवति. So as I mentioned, very few examples, mostly it is seen in the tinganta prakriya and krudanta prakriya. We will see it towards the end of the course when we deal with these kind of prakriyas. The reason why I am teaching this particular sutram right now is, as there was a question a few minutes ago, after doing the dwitva, this kind of jashtva is possible. So see, वर्ग चतुर्थस्य द्वित्वे कृते अपि इदं जष्ट्वं प्रवर्तते. सो अर्घ्यम इति अस्ति. अ प्लस र प्लस घ. सो रेफात् अनन्तरं घकारः अस्ति, तस्य द्वित्वं संभवति. सो अर्घ्यम, sorry, so अर्घ्यम, घ has to be replicated. अर्घ्यम इत्यत्र घकारस्य द्वित्वे कृते, now you have घ plus घ. So you have a jhal letter and a varga chaturtha, a jhash letter after it. Therefore, the jhal letter will undergo a jashtvam. You have to do this jashtvam. So dwitvam is optional. You might say, I don't want to do dwitvam. But once you do that dwitvam, you cannot stop after arghyam with a double ghakara. You have to do the jhalam, jash, jashi, jashtvam, make converting the first ghakara to a gakara. There is a typing mistake. Let me fix this. There you must convert the first. Give me 1 minute. You must convert the first. So see what I'm typing. Instead of gh, you will type g, and then the next gh will be as it is. Arghyam. Let me just go over this again. So you have arghyam, you have refa plus ghakara. This ghakara undergoes a dvitva. So you have ghakara, ghakara, and after that there is yakara. And now this ghakara undergoes a jashtvam. So you get a gakara. So ra plus ga plus gha plus ya. So ra plus ga plus gha plus ya, arghyam iti siddhyati. Similarly, adhyaya ityatra dhakarasya dvitvam bhavati. Anachi cha इत्यत्र धकारस्य द्वित्वं भवति, बिकॉज अचः परः यरः द्वे वा स्तः न तु अचि. सो धकारस्य द्वित्वं भवति. धकारस्य द्वित्वे कृते ध प्लस ध इत्यत्र प्रथम धकारस्य दकारादेशः अध्यायः, अभ्यासः, अभ्यासः, अर्धम्, अर्धम्. अनेन प्रकारेण अत्र द्वित्वे कृते इदं झलां जश् झषि इति जष्ट्वं प्रवर्तते. So that's the sutram. Jhalam jash jhashi. Sutram is very simple. It is like ikaha yan achi. The sutra is self-explanatory. In fact, if you go to Siddhanta Kaumudi, for Jhalam, jash, jashi. Look at what Kaumadikara says. Not Dirghadacharam, Jhalam, jash, jashi. If you go to Jhalam, jash, jashi and look at what Siddhanta Kaumadikara says, Spashtam. That's one line example. Even Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi says Spashtam. So at this moment, if you have reached Ashtadhyayi studies till this point in time, you should be able to understand, interpret the meaning of Jhalam, jash, jashi fully without needing any help from commentary. That is the meaning of the word Spashtam. Spashtam is not the Sutrartha for Jhalam, jash, jashi. Spashta means there is nothing to talk. If I have to teach the meaning of Jhalam, jash, jashi, then you are not studying properly and you should not be in this class. So that's exactly what it is saying. And I'm not at all exaggerating or talking beyond possibilities. But this particular sutram says that you should have already understood everything that is being taught so far. And then you can predict the sutrartha on your own. Arthaha spashtaha syat. So Jhalam, jash, jashi, obviously I'm not writing spashtam over here. Jhalam sthane jashadesh bhavati jhashi paratah samhitayam. So Jhalam, jash, jhashi. Jhal is varga chaturtha, tritiya, dvitiya, prathama and ushmanas. Jash is varga tritiya, jhash is tritiya and chaturtha. All this should be thoroughly memorized. If in the next class, if you have a question on what is jhash and what is yar and what is whatever atta and so on, then you are not studying properly. So jhal varnasya jhash varne pare jash varnadeshah bhavati labdha. Labha plus kta ityatra labha plus dha iti krute bhakarasya bakaradeshah bhavati labdha iti jhayate. Bhrasja is a dhatu. Bhrasja plus aniyara इत्यस्याम प्रक्रियायाम आदौ सकारस्य श्चुत्वम भवति. So bhrashjaniya, I have done the complete prakriya. Bhrashjaniya, because it's just the varna melanam, so you can do it here. Bhrashjaniya. After that, shakarasya jashtvam bhavati. So shakara is a hal letter. After that, there is a jhasha letter. Jhasha is varga tritiya or varga chaturtha. So there is a jhasha letter which is the varga tritiya letter. Asyam sthito shakarasya jashtve jakaraha. So sh is the talavya varna. Tasya adesh rupena jakaraha iti talavya varna eva vidhiyate. So bhrajjaniya atra jashtvam bhavati. Dvisha iti dhatuh asti. Tasya dve pratyay pare. Dvisha plus dve ityatra adoštutvam bhavati. Dvisha plus dve. See how much we have studied so far and how all these material is being used in complex prakriyas. So dvisha plus dve itra dhakarasya jashtutve dhakaraha. Now we have sh plus dh. Dh is the varga chaturtha. Sh is in the jhal pratyahara. So sh ityasya jashtve krute द्विड प्लस द्वे द्विड द्वे अत्र शकारस्य जष्ट्वे डकारः जायते. Sudhi upasyaha. This is the pet example of Kaumudikara. He starts the ach sandhi prakaranam by the very first udaharanam called Sudhi upasyaha. So in the Anachi sutram, when Siddhanta Kaumudikara is teaching, the first example he gives is Sudhi plus upasyaha. Sudhi is an intelligent person. This is a samasa. Sudhi bhihi upasyaha. That one which is worshipped by the intelligent people. Sudhibhihi upasyaha. Ityatra sudhi iti purva padam, upasya iti uttara padam. Tatra samase sahita nitya, tatra sahitayaha vivakshayam sandhau kritayam krite, tatra sudhya upasyaha. So yanadeshaha bhavati, sudhya upasyaha. Asyam sthitau agre kim bhavati? Sudhya upasyaha. So sudhi plus upasyaha, sudhya upasyaha ityatra anachicha iti dwitvam bhavati. See, dha plus ya. So anachicha iti dwitvam bhavati. In fact, look at this ach sandhi prakaranam. Siddhanta Kaumudikara starts ach sandhi prakaranam with the sutram ikoyanachi. Look how convoluted these sutras have been arranged in what order. Starts with ikoyanachi. He takes the example of sudhyupasyaha. And as soon as he says Sudhya Upasyaha, the immediate next sutra he teaches is Anachicha. So he says, okay, now Dhakara plus Yakara is there. Let's do the Dwitvam on Dhakara. So Acha parasya yero dvevastha natu achi iti Dhakarasya Dwitvam. So the sutras are thoroughly intermixed. I think we are going through a much better order. Yana Sandhi is being learned separately. Dvitva is now being learned separately. And now we are combining everything together. So we have in the current context Sudhyupasyaha Anachi chaiti dvitve krute sudhyupasya with a double dhakara, and then you have the jashtvam. As I mentioned, because there is a varga chaturtha being replicated, you can use jashtvam. Sudhyupasya dhakarasya dhakaradeshaha bhavati. Give me 1 minute. हाँ, धकारस्य धकारादेशः भवति. सो धकारस्य द्वित्वे कृते तत्र जश्त्वं प्रवर्तते. That's it. We are done with hal sandhav. That's what I said. Very simple sutras. We are done with hal sandhav jashtvam. Why is not? I think I missed doing some animations on some of the slides. Let's do it again. Okay. Any questions on the jashtva? Otherwise, we are going to the next one. That's char-tva. So see, we are done with what? We are done with dwitvam, achoh, rahabhyam, dve, anachi, sharoch'i. We are done with jashtvam. The sutras that are remaining are chartwam, 2 sutras, and parasavaranaha, 1 sutra. Any questions? Agre gachhamaha. The next is chartvam. Again, very well-known transformation. You don't need to focus on, I don't need to focus on teaching you what chartvam is. We can only focus on sutra. But let's do a quick recap. Jhal varnasya char varne parivartanam bhavati. So jasha is varga tritiya. Jasha is varga tritiya. Transformation into varga tritiya is called jashtva. Char is varga prathama. Transformation into varga prathama is called chara. So jhala varnasya. So the jhala is the common starting point. You can convert it to jasha or you can convert it to chara, or means this is not a same sutra giving option. I'm just saying how the prakriya goes. So conversion into jasha is called jashtva, conversion to chara is called chartva. So jhala is varga chaturtha, varga dvitiya, varga tritiya, varga prathama, ushmanaha. That's the same pratyahara. Shar is varga prathamas and shashasar. So that's chara. Idam chartvam prakriyayaha prayena ante eva bhavati. So remember, it is all the way towards the end of the sutra patha. Here, 8455, just 13 sutras before Ashtadhyayi ends. So nakara lopaha kutvam ubhaya prakarakam jashtvam anuswaradeshaha agama karyani rutvam shchutvam shtutvam dvitvam ityadikam sarvam adau krutva tatah eva chartvam karaniyam. And then after you do chartva, you still have a scope for other things. So that is what is in the sequence after this. So after doing the chartvam, you can do the sutras that are going to be taught in tomorrow's class. So chatvam, purva savarnaha, parasavarna, that's what we are going to learn today. And lopaha, there is a lopa, which is the removal of certain letters. So all these are going to come later on. So etebhyaha purvam eva chartvam karniyam. So only few karyas are coming after the chartvam. Asya jhal varnasya chartvam kada sambhavati. So when is this chartva possible? Khar varne pare nityam chartvam bhavati. Khar varne pare. Khar is kha, pha, cha, tha, tha, cha, ta, ta, sha, sha, sar. So varga dvitiya, varga prathama and sha, sha, sa. Asmin khar varne pare nityam chartvam bhavati. So surut plus kaha, there is a khar varna. Khar is karkasha vyanjanam, varga prathama is there here. So surut plus kaha, atra surut plus kaha, chartvam bhavati. Anushtub plus chandaha, varga dvitiya, again karkasha vyanjanam. So anushtup chandaha. Vagpatuhu, atra pakaraha varga prathama asti. So vakpatuhu. Anena prakarena atra khar varne pare nityam chartvam bhavati. In fact, you can do this chartvam after doing the dwitvam also by one of the previous sutras. So varga dvitiyasya vaikalpike dvitve krute idam chartvam sambhavati. So prakhyat iti shabdah asti. Anachi chaitanena khakarasya dvitve krute prakhyat. Now what is happening? There is a jhala letter and after that there is a karkasha vyanjanam. This karkasha vyanjanam under the jhala letter, in presence of this karkasha vyanjanam, undergoes a chartva. So prakhyataha. You can either stop without doing dvitva or you must do dvitva and then chartva after that. Chartva is not optional, only dvitva is optional. After doing dvitva, chartva is compulsory. Prakhyataha. Arthaha. Rephat parasya thakarasya dvitvam. Arthaha. And then that thakara will undergo a chartvam to takaraha. So arthaha. अनेन प्रकारेण द्वित्वे कृते अपि अग्रे चर्त्वं कर्तुं शक्यते. That chartvam is because there is a khar letter next to it, and that chartvam is compulsory. And then avasane pare vikalpena chartvam bhavati. If there is avasana in the front, the chartva is optional. So anushtubh, the original word is bhakaranta. You start by doing the jashtva, jhalam jashonte. That comes all the way earlier in the sutra patha, 8239. So jhalam jashonte tenine jashtve krute anushtubha. Idanim pakshikam chartvam sambhavati, because there is an avasana. So avasane pare vikalpena chartvam bhavati. पाक्षिके चर्त्वे कृते अनुष्टुप और अनुष्टुब इति सिद्ध्यति. Similarly, रामात् इत्यत्र जष्ट्वे कृते रामाद. पाक्षिके चर्त्वे कृते the can remain as it is or the can come back to varga prathama, रामात् or रामाद इति रूपेण सिद्ध्यति. This actually reminds me, there was an error in one of the slides earlier. I forgot telling. Over here, look at this. These examples that I took, right? Ramat, takara getting doubled, and in even avadat, takara getting doubled. So these examples are actually not wrong. These examples are correct, but there is a little shastra behind it which I have skipped. What is happening over here? See, when you take ramat, this is the panchami ekvachanam, ramat, the first thing that will happen is the jashtva, jhalam jashonte. So that will convert the takara to dakara. After that, there will be dwitva. So ramad will undergo a dwitva to form ramad with a double dakara. So takarasya dwitvam the sambhavati. Kimarthamiti chet takarasya arambhe dakaradeshah karaniyah. Jhalam jashonte is not optional. It is compulsory. So takara must be converted to dakara, and then that dakara will undergo the dwitva, giving rise to ramad with a double dakara. Now at this stage the chartva will happen. So now, because see, the order is jashtva, dvitva and chartva. So at this stage chartva will happen. Padante vidyamanasya jhal varnasya vikalpena chartvam bhavati. So then it will be Ramadat with a single dakara and takara, and then another chartva will happen, and then you will have this dakara getting converted to takara, giving rise to Ramat. So see the ordering. Even though it is written as Ramat becoming Ramat double ta. So originally we started with Ramat and we have final form as Ramat double ta. But the prakriya is not a single step over there. There is a set of intermediate steps happening. First, Ramat becomes Ramad by Jashtva. Then Dakara gets replicated by Dvitva. So Ramad. Then the Dakara at the end by Avasana, because there is an Avasana in front, is optionally converted to Chartva. So the becomes ta, and because of that Varga Prathama, the before that undergoes the Chartva again, giving rise to Rama with a double ta. Same thing for Avadata as well. So I wanted to explain this point at that point, but we didn't have the background of Char-tva. So I skipped that after studying the Char-tva. Now you're aware of what exact prakriya is happening over there. Somebody is asking, is Rama the iti shuddham asti va? So see the prakriya. Let me go over slowly. Rama. This is your starting point. Then the compulsory is the. So Ramad. Dwitvam is optional. So you have Ramad. After that, chartvam on the last dakara is optional. Avasane pare vikalpena chartvam bhavati. So you have Ramad. Now the question is this form valid? Ramad. Does anyone want to answer that question? So is this form valid or is this form not valid? Iti itta prashna asti. Anybody wants to give answer to this question? If you're not able to answer this, then I'm actually going too fast and I should slow down. Reshma ji.
This isn't optional.
Sorry, what?
This is not optional. You have to compulsory convert now.
You have to compulsory convert dakara to takara.
Yes.
Why?
Because there is no avsana, there is khar varna.
Very good. Correct. So if you have reached, very good. So that's the answer. If you have reached Rama the ta, you are Rama the ta, you are doing the chartva because of the khar letter. Khar varne pare nityam chartvam bhavati. So you have to convert this takara to dakara, and therefore Rama ta iti dvitakaratmakam rupam siddhati. Sudhavalli ji, you wanted to say something?
Yes, this is the same thing I wanted to tell. And Rama, both the is optional, isn't it?
Ha, correct. So you can stop at both dakaras. You can stop at Rama the because the first chartvam is optional, and that is the terminal chartvam. The ending dakara chartvam is optional, and unless that chartvam is done, you don't have the necessary nimitta for the previous chartvam. So you can stop at Rama the with the double dakara, or you can stop at Rama ta with the double takara. This is explicitly quoted as an example of Jhalam somewhere in Siddhanta Kaumudi. Maybe it is available in Rama. This explicit example is quoted somewhere in the Siddhanta Kaumudi. Let's try to see if I can quickly find it out. Anachi maybe in Siddhanta Kaumudi. Dhakara se dwitvam no. Where is that Anachi Sutram? Seem to find it now. Anyway, let's not spend time on this, but this specific example of Ramata with a double takara and double dakara is somewhere quoted, and this is the general prakriya. So here is the two sutras, kharicha, that gives the compulsory chartvam, and va avasane, that gives the optional chartvam. So again, kharicha, nothing to teach over here. Khari pare, khar varne pare, jhalam sahitayam charaha sihu. So jhalam charaha khari samhitayam sihu. झल वर्णस्य खर वर्णे परे शर आदेशः भवति. कॉपी पेस्ट. शर आदेशः भवति. झल वर्णस्य खर वर्णे परे शर इति आदेशः जायते. So you have वर्गीय झल वर्णस्य स्थाने तस्य वर्गस्य प्रथम रूपेण आदेश प्रथम वर्णः, and शकार शकार शकारस्य स्थाने सः एव वर्णः. झल includes sh sh s also, but the good news is sh sh s are also in char pratyahara, so it's an identical transformation. Sh becomes sh becomes sh becomes sh becomes s. So it's essentially, even if you don't do chartvam, that's okay. So here are examples. Vach plus shakti. Now see how the prakriya goes. First thing is kutva. Even before the padanta jashto 8 to 30 is chohokuhu. So kutve krute vak shakti. Agre jashtve krute vag shakti. Agre idanim chartve krute vak shakti. So you do kutva, you do jashtva, and you come back to kutva. Marut plus chalati. First you do the jashtva, marud chalati. You do the shutva, maruj chalati. So the becomes j. And now you revert back with the chartva. Chartvena jakarasya chakaraha maruch chalati. Shad santaha. We have seen this example earlier. You have a dhudagama shad dha santaha. Dhakarasya chartvam bhavati, because there is a sakara in front. So dhakarasya chartve sakara chartve takaraha shad ta santaha. That ta triggers a chartvam on dakara. So dakarasya chartve takaraha shat sa ta santaha. लभ भविष्यत् कालस्य रूपम लृट लकार. लभ प्लस य प्लस ते. वेरी सिंपल प्रक्रिया. भकार से चर्त्वे पकारः लप्स्यते. See how many prakriyas now you are able to understand on your own. भज प्लस त आदौ कुत्वम भवति. भग प्लस त चोहो कुहु इत्यनेन कुत्वे कृते भग प्लस त. गकार से चर्त्वे भक प्लस त भक्त. व्रश्च प्लस अनियर. व्रश्च इत्यत्र शुत्वे कृते व्रश्च प्लस अनियर. शकारस्य चर्त्वे शकारः एव. So there is a sh plus ch. So shakarasya chartve shakarah. It's a no op. You might write it or you might ignore it. but I'm just giving an example that sh, sh, s are converted to sh, sh, s. So shakarasya chartve shakaraha vrashchaniya iti bhavati. So these are examples of kharicha. The next is va avasane. Avasane pare vikalpena chartvam sambhavati. So ramat padanta jashtve ramad. This is compulsory. Vaikalpike chartve ramat ramad. The next is the one that I just demonstrated. Ramat padanta jashtve ramad. Vaikalpike dvitve ramad. Avasane pare dakarasya vaikalpike chartve ramad. So this is Vaikalpike. I have explicitly said you are allowed to stop at the previous step or you can go to the next step. Similarly, Dwitvam is optional. But Padanta Jashvam is not optional. You have to go to that step. And after you do the first Chartva, the next is not optional. So Takare pare Dakara se Chartve Takaraha Ramat with a double Takara. Marut Jashtve Marud Vaikalpike Chartve Marut Marud. Shash तस्य जस्त्वे षड झलाम जशोन्ते वैकल्पिके चर्त्वे षट् or shad. That completes chartva. Any questions on chartva? It's already more than 1 hour. Even if there is one slide, I think our course will always take more than 1 hour. So I was actually thinking only 40-45 minutes. I also had another PPT opened, PPT number 35. There was some Shastra Vishaya that I skipped in that PPT. I wanted to teach that if there was time today, but we never get time. Anyway, the last sutram of today's class, Torli Parasavarnaha. Again, Takarasya Lakaradesha, Tavargya Varnasya Lakaradesha. That's also a very well known sandhi. You must have studied it in your Kovida Shiksha studies. So, Hal Sandhishu, Eka Prakarakaha eva Parasavarnaha asti, Takarasya, Tavargiya Varnasya, Lakare Pare Adeshaha. This is a parasavarna sandhi, not to be confused with pararupa. Pararupa is different. We have seen that in the ach sandhi prakaranam. This is parasavarna, paravarnasya savarnaha. So takarasya lakare pare parasavarnaha. Ityukte kaha paravarnaha? Lakaraha paravarnaha tasya savarnaha. Now lakarasya dvau savarnau. Lakaraha तथा च अनुनासिक लकारः अतः तवर्गीय वर्णस्य स्थाने लकारे परे लकारस्य सवर्णः विधीयते. कथम आदेश विधानम? अनुनासिक वर्णस्य स्थाने इत्युक्ते अननुनासिक वर्णस्य स्थाने इत्युक्ते त थ द ध इत्येतेषां स्थाने लकारस्य अननुनासिक भेदः. So non-anunasika letter will be replaced by the non-anunasika lakara, and similarly anunasika letter, that is the nakara, will be replaced by the anunasika lakara. So ananunasika varnasya sthane lakarasya ananunasika bhedah, anunasika varnasya sthane ityukte nakarasya sthane lakarasya anunasika bhedah. And this latva is, as I mentioned, all the way towards the end. So latvat purvam nityam jashtvam eva vidhiyate. So essentially, even if the sutra says ta vargiya varna, which is basically ta, tha, da, dha and na, what is happening is jashtvam is happening before this particular sutra comes in the picture. So jashtva will all go, ta will go to the, tha will go to the, and dha will go to the. So everything will go and fall back to the. Nakara is not a jhal letter, so nakara doesn't undergo jashtva. So the only possible candidates till we reach this place are the and na. So the becomes the normal l, na becomes the anunasika l. So that's a simple mapping. So atra latvat purvam nityam jashtvam vidhiyate. अतः दकारात् नकारात् वा अनन्तरम् एव लकारः संभवति. One example, vidyut plus lata. Vidyut is a takaranta word. Vidyut plus lata. But first jashtva will happen. Vidyud lata. Now parasavarna will happen. Vidyul lata. Vidyul lata. Shriman lokaha. The nakara undergoes a parasavarna adesha to become anunasika lakara. Shriman lokaha. See how this is written. You should not write it as l full with an anunasika because it will indicate anunasika on akara, or there will be a confusion. Lakarasya anunasika bheda asti uta akarasya anunasika bheda asti. So you have to say shrimal with a half lakara and then full lakara. with a lokaha. Do not write double lakara with an okara and an anunasika on that. Do not write like this. It will be confusing. There are two lakaras and one okara. Who is the anunasika out of the three? So there might be a confusion. So explicitly write a separate lakara which is anunasika and then write the remaining part of the word. So Shrimal Lokaha. The sutram is a torli toho इत्युक्ते तवर्गस्य li इत्युक्ते लकारे परे परसवर्णः भवति. परसवर्ण comes as an anuvritti अनुनासिकस्य अनुस्वारस्य ययि परसवर्णः. So samhitayam is the adhikara. Toho li samhitayam parasavarnah. Toho is the tu ityasya षष्ठी ekvachanam. Tu ityatra udit karanam. Anudit savarnasya cha pratyayah. So ta vargiya varnah. Ta vargiya varnasya lakare pare parasavarnadeshah bhavati. Lakarasya savarna are la and anunasika la. Ta tha da dha ityetesham ananunasika lakara adesha. Na ityasya anunasika lakaraha. I have written the because that is the sutrartha. Technically, it is either the or la. So, marut plus lunati, jashtve marud lunati, parasavarne marul lunati. Bhavan plus likhati, parasavarne bhava likhati. Anina prakarena atra adyatanasya vargasya adhyenam samaptam. There is one more sutram in the parasavarna prakaranam actually, which we have studied much earlier. So, you have torli and before that you have anuswarasya yai parasavarna. So that's also parasavarna and vapadantasya. So look at this. Anuswarasya ye parata parasavarna adesha. Padantasya anuswarasya ye pare vikalpena parasavarna adesha. So we have studied these two things while talking about padante hal sandhu adesha. Why? Because they were about anuswara and I was discussing the topic of anuswara over there. So the topic of parasavarna were promoted and I took them over there. And the remaining sutra of the parasavarna, namely Torli, is being taught in today's class. So this way we have completed achoh, rahabhyam, de, Anachi, and Sharoch'i. These are the sutras for the dwitva prakaranam. Jhalam, jash, jhashi, that's the sutram for apadanta jashtva. Kharicha va avasani, these are the sutras for the chartva. And finally, Torli is the sutra for parasavarna. So simple class actually. I mean, when the class is simple, I'll tell it is simple. In case of Agama, I told that the class was complex and the prakriya was convoluted. On the contrary, today's class and tomorrow's class both are extremely simple classes, not too much of technicalities. Grihapaatham pashyamaha. First question. Banasya kadambaryaha swikrutam adhodattam vakyakhandam. So the very first letter of Kadambari written by Bana Bhatta is given over here. The actual sentence consists of 100 words. One sentence, okay? First sentence, opening sentence of Kadambari, you should at least look at it, consists of 80 to 100 words. I have just collected simple 10 words over here. So Banasya Kadambaryaha Svikrutaha Kashana Vakyakhanda Adha Datta Asti Yatra Yatra Shakyam Tatra Tatra Dwitvam Tadanantaram Jastvam Chartwam Yat Kimapi Avashakam Tat Krutva Idam Vakyam Punarlikhata. So look at this sentence. आसीदशेष नरपति शिरः समभ्यर्चित शासनः चक्रवर्ति लक्षणोपेतः आदर्शः सर्वशास्त्राणाम् आश्रयो रसिकानां प्रत्यादेशो धनुष्मतां राजा शूद्रको नाम. So these are all visheshanas of Shudraka. The actual sentence is what? Asid Shudrako nama Raja. And then there are 100 visheshanas that are added in that sentence. I have only picked a few of them. अशेष नरपति शिरः समभ्यर्चित शासनः चक्रवर्ति लक्षणोपेतः सर्वशास्त्राणाम् आदर्शः रसिकानाम् आश्रयः धनुष्मतां प्रत्यादेशः शूद्रको नाम राजा. So अस्मिन् वाक्ये यत्र यत्र शक्यं तत्र तत्र द्वित्वं करणीयं. So just rewrite the sentence by showing where all द्वित्वा is being done. ततः तेभ्यः केषाम् अपि चतुर्णां द्वित्वकार्याणां प्रक्रियाः अपि दर्शयतु. There are so many instances of Dvitva. Do everywhere and show sample prakriyas for any 4. And then I have given 10 prakriyas. Prakriyaha purayantu. Complete the prakriya. So the fill in the blanks doesn't mean there is only one step. There can be multiple steps. Kevalam sutrani eva lekhaniyani tesham kimapi spashtikaranam na deyam. Only write sutras one below the another in the normal prakriya format with the numbers without any explanation. 10 prakriyas are given over here. समापयामः. Any questions? Okay, प्रश्नाः न वर्तन्ते. समापयामः. रेश्मा जी.
Namaste. Mahoday. My one general question is that whenever you say that such forms are not seen or not available, so like for example, for me, my vocabulary is very low, less. So I know only few forms. Then how can we really know whether a word is a sadhu word or not? Like whether it is a correct form or not. So how do we know
What do you
that?
mean such forms don't exist? Like
Many
शिष्टाः
times
एव
like if,
प्रमाणम्. More.
but then that shishta means how, where do I look for those shishta forms? Like,
Right. So basically, more and more language that you learn, more and more closer you will go to these forms. So, for example, the difference between when you were studying whatever Pravesha versus Kovida, the knowledge has increased. In fact, after doing this course, many words that you never thought are sadhu are ramat with a double takara. Now you know are sadhu. So that's the only way. More and
right.
more you learn, more and more sadhu words you will understand. That's it. The
Okay.
shishtas have become shishtas exactly like this, right? Continuous study and practice. There is no third option. In fact, it is this practice
Okay.
that
Thank you.
any further no, right? So it is in fact this practice that is extremely important. The topic has come, that's why I'll just give an introduction. I'm not going to take much time. But see, the first 3 modules of our course were different. So Samnya Prakaranam, an introduction to Paninian grammar and that. You could just listen quietly, read the Sutrartha and you are done. But that's not the case with Sandhis. The 65 sutras that we are going to study in this particular Sandhi Prakaranam, even if you mug these sutras by heart, you will not be able to generate prakriyas unless you know how to employ these sutras in practice. And therefore, for this particular module, as I mentioned, regular practice is extremely important. And therefore, after the 40 classes are done, today is the 37th class which is being over. After the 40 classes are done, I'm going to spend one full week, the immediate next week after the class 40, in purely having you do the prakriya. So I will have a slide deck. There will be a prakriya on the top, and those of you who raise hands, I'll just unmute one of them and I'll ask you to actually do the prakriya in the class in front of me, in front of all your classmates. It is perfectly okay to do mistakes. Unless you do mistakes, we will not learn. So I'll spend 1 week. If you want, I'll spend 2 weeks. But I want to make sure that each one of you is very fluently able to do the prakriya right on the spot at runtime. That is, without thinking of it earlier. Given the input, you should be able to do the prakriya. If you are not at that level, then you should not go beyond this module. So Subanta Prakaranam and all that is a far away thing. Unless you are thorough with these sutras, their convoluted interactions, and अस्मादनन्तरमिदं भवति, अस्मादनन्तरमिदं भवति, अस्मादनन्तरमिदं भवति, all that chain, only the practice will make you perfect in that. So we will spend 1 week for sure. If you want, in one class, I think 20-25 prakriyas we should be able to do. So in one class 25, so in 1 week 50 prakriyas we should be able to do. If you want, we can spend 2 weeks also, up to you, but at least 1 week I definitely want to spend in making sure that I don't talk but you all talk and you all get a chance to actually work out the prakriya. So I just talked about this because I talked about practicing for these sutras. I'll give more details after class number 40. Any questions on this? No, just samapayama. Tomorrow's class also is actually very simple sutras in tomorrow's class. Sharoch'i, halo, yamam, yam, ilopa, and so on. Within 1 hour, 1 hour, 10 minutes, we should be able to finish everything. अष्टाध्यायी जगन्माता यस्य चित्तात् समुत्थितः वेदानामुपकाराय तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। शब्द ब्रह्म समाराध्य कृतवान्यो विलक्षणं सर्वाश्चर्यमिदं शास्त्रं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। येन धौतागिरः पुंसां विमलैः शब्दवारिभिः तमश्चाज्ञानजं भिन्नं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। धन्यवादः।